Hello, everyone. Welcome to Travel Tech Academy. Today, we will have Mr. Neil James, COO from Shiji Group Review Pro. Today, he'll give a masterclass with automation, the key to supercharging hotel operations. So, I invite everybody to be here with Neil, have this masterclass going forward. And after when he finish, you will be able to access the online test and exam. So Neil, welcome. Thanks to be here. Thanks to provide this masterclass to TravelTechAcademy.com. Neil, welcome. I will leave you to explain a little bit what we're talking about today, and then you can start whenever you want to. Okay, man. Thank you so much to be here.
Thank you so much, Vinny. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, wherever you are connected from. It's a pleasure to be here today with you to go through this session. The session is titled Automation, the Key to Supercharging Hotel Operations. So the idea here in this presentation is to delve into the benefits of integrating advanced automation solutions into your hospitality operations. The idea here is leveraging key industry metrics. We can provide a roadmap to transform guest experiences, address operational inefficiencies, and enhance your business performance. So before we go into that, a little bit about myself. As Vinny said, I am the COO at Shiji Guest Solutions, part of the Shiji Group. I myself have been working with guest experience technology for over 11 years. I do have 17 years, although it hurts me to say it, 17 years working in technology for hospitality. And prior to working in technology for hospitality, I did work at various hotels, mainly in the London or London Heathrow market. And I've worked as a front of house manager, a rooms division manager, operations manager, revenue manager, and general manager. And as you can see today, I also participate every now and then in some public speaking, which I enjoy very much. I am a father of a 15-year-old daughter, Aina, who is definitely pushing the boundaries of fatherhood these days on understanding how to deal with a 15-year-old daughter. And I am a massive Liverpool Football Club supporter. I hope none of you hold that against me as we go throughout this presentation today. So before we go into the key content, wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of Shiji Group. So it is a multinational technology company that provides software solutions and services for enterprise companies in the hospitality, food, service, retail, and entertainment industries, ranging from hospitality technology platforms, hotel management solution, food and beverage and retail systems, payment gateways, data management, online distribution, and much, much more. Shiji was founded in 1998 as a network solutions provider for hotels, and Shiji Group today comprises of over 5,000 employees in more than 80 subsidiaries and brands in over 23 countries. And we serve more than 91,000 hotels, 200,000 restaurants, and 600,000 retail outlets. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an idea of who the Shiji Group is. And then at Shiji Review Pro, we actually have over 60,000 clients and partners in over 150 countries. We work across different facets of the hospitality industry, whether that be with hotel brands and chains, management companies, data companies, and much, much more, taking into account hotel owners and investors, consultants, advisors, etc. Yeah. And Review Pro was born from the online reputation market back in 2009. That was the first product that we actually had. That was the vision of our co-founders at the time. And as then hospitality technology started to evolve, when we were speaking to our clients at the time, they kept asking us to look at going into guest surveys technology so that they could see their online reputation, but also what they called back then the offline reputation, all in the one platform. From that perspective, we then went into in-stay surveys, and again, this was as a request from the industry. So we basically saw that everything that we were doing with online reputation and guest surveys, this was all very post-stay, right? Once the guest had actually left and getting that feedback. But then the in-stay surveys was the piece that basically enabled us to understand how did the guests feel while they were on property, what feedback did they have, and could we turn that experience around? So with the launch of in-stay surveys, this really helped to increase that feedback. But what we identified was that the more and more in-stay feedback that we had, actually, there was a need to automate workflows. And this is where case management came in. So for example, when we had in-stay surveys being used with our clients, we were identifying that while those surveys were being sent, maybe there wasn't enough ownership or responsibility to make sure those cases were being closed, and the need to build escalation, right? If we had sent out a case after 2 hours, there's no response, then let's escalate that to somebody else to make sure that we could turn the guest experience around. And then in 2018, as the messaging channel started to grow more and more, our customers told us that they were looking for the ability to be able to manage all of these messaging channels all from one platform. And this to us sounded like a fantastic idea, as we already had the ability to manage everything else related to the guest experience within the application. So we built the guest messaging hub back in 2018. What did we find? We found that while we had these messaging channels and we had all of this communication now that was coming in, hotels just didn't have the staff to be able to deal with all those requests. And people were a lot more impatient in waiting for their responses when it was going through messaging. And this is where in 2020, then we released our guest communications platform, which includes an automated chatbot, which can obviously deal with those particular queries. So I'm going to go into a little bit of trends to give you an idea of what the market looks like. But just before I do that, I just wanted to let you know that throughout the session, I will pose a few questions at different points. I would really love to get your feedback, your experience. If you have questions, I will either try to respond to them during the session, or if not, obviously at the end of the session, we'll try and deal with as many of those queries as possible. Okay, so just, please feel free to share that information. So before I go into hospitality trends, I wanted to give a very high-level overview to the key index that we have in the Review Pro online reputation tool called the Global Review Index. And this is an index that we created in order to be able to understand your online reputation and be able to benchmark your hotel or your group of hotels against each other, but also against your competitors. And be able to obviously track the evolution of your property over a period of time. In today's day and age, we have thousands of hospitality professionals around the globe that have the bonus attached to the Global Review Index in one way or another, right? And I think it's key to bear in mind here that Review Pro's Global Review Index, it's not a straight average, it is an algorithm. It does look at key factors within that review data in order to understand. So why am I giving you information related to the Global Review Index? Well, because at CG Review Pro, every quarter we release a data benchmark report. And that data benchmark report has been going now for 5 editions, which is fantastic. It started the first quarter of last year. And usually that report is looking at data of 7,500 hotels around the globe. As you can see, it crunched over 6 million reviews. And then in our semantic analysis section, which is looking at the text, it was looking at over 20 million semantic mentions in order to identify what was the guest feedback giving us. So if you've not seen that data report before, go to the Review Pro website. Just look for that in Google, go into it, and you'll find a pop-up that will talk about the benchmark report. If you go in there then and subscribe to it each quarter that new data comes out, you'll be able to then get the report. And why do we need that? Well, because it's important to know exactly what is going on in the industry when it comes to guest satisfaction, right? And one of the things that we've seen from this report is that guest satisfaction is actually on the decline. And these results are backed up by the data from our annual report. And the report that we did in 2022, looking at this data, comparing to the previous year, so 2021, and also the pre-pandemic year, 2019. And in 2022, we saw the Global Review Index for global data set was 84.3, and that was 1.7 points below 2019 and 0.5 points lower than in 2021. The GRI was highest for 5-star hotels and lowest for 3-star hotels. And hotels in the Middle East and Africa region had the lowest GRI at 82.8%, and hotels in the Asia Pacific region had the highest GRI at 86.4%. So to get a bit of an idea, the benchmark report is a great way in order to be able for you to be able to validate how is your online reputation performing and how does it actually perform against, the global benchmark, right? So there is some good news in the new data of Q1 of 2023. There are positive signs of recovery. The Global Review Index has increased over Q1 2022, which is great. It's still slightly below 2021 levels, but not far. And we are seeing that the review volume continues to increase. So as you can see here, it's increasing up to over almost 2.8 million. So this is great, but what we are seeing is that the increase of the volume of reviews is actually starting to slow down, right? So it's not growing as fast as it was. So what are the challenges in the hospitality at the moment that affect guest experience? What do you guys think right now are some of the biggest challenges when trying to deliver a good guest experience with your guests? Is it something specific to your product? Is it service related? What specifically? Use the chat section. If you don't mind, I'll give you 45 seconds. I'm interested to know what are the key things that are currently impacting the guest experience within your properties, wherever you're working right now. So you have 45 seconds to put your feedback. And then once I have your feedback, I'll share some of that as well as what the data is telling us. So again, what are the things that in your properties or in your experience are most impacting hospitality and guest experience right now? Okay, so just while I'm waiting for some of those comments to come in, I'll go on to the next slide. So some of the things that we've been seeing in relation to the data is that we have a situation in relation to high occupancy, right? Which is a great situation. That's what we want to be seeing within the hotels. But we're also seeing in many areas, staff shortage is still an issue. And we're seeing the rise in the ADR, the average daily rate in many markets these days has never been to the levels that it is right now. But that also brings its own challenge. It brings higher guest expectations, right? The guests are now paying for a lot more, but actually the product that they're receiving is either more or less the same or could even be worse than what they may have had before the pandemic hit. And bear in mind that if we think about the industry in general, nearly everybody wants to travel these days. After being stuck at home for anywhere between 4 months to 2 years, everybody wants to travel. Everybody's done their home improvements at home, and they're using the money that they have in order to be able to go and have experiences. The challenge is those expectations are that much higher. And if the expectations are higher while the rates are higher, but there is still a challenge with staffing, the only thing that we can do in order to try and deal with that is look at how we can automate processes, communication, etc., within the operation, right? So I have a couple of examples where I've been traveling recently, and it's intriguing to see how hotels and chains are implementing technology in order to try and help that process, right? For example, online check-in, check-out. That technology is implemented. I get my email to tell me that I can check in and check out. But then when I do that, when I get to the hotel, it's actually not recognized and nothing of the process actually changes. So one of the key things here is that while we have all of these technologies and we have the ability to really elevate the guest experience, to show additional value for money to the guest, it's really important that obviously that technology is deployed in a way that benefits the guest and they feel that they are getting value out of that process. So if we look at the little table that's on the right-hand side, we can see that within the global data set that we use in the benchmark report, the room category had the highest negative impact on the GRI, and that was driving it down by 2.3 percentile points. And then it was cleanliness, followed by establishment, food and drinks, and experience, right? Now, experience, staff, and service were actually three of the categories that impacted the GRI positively. Okay, so this is a way in which we can try and make sure that while our project might be a bit more challenging or requires some CapEx to improve, we need to make sure that we can utilize the team in a way that they can provide a better service and a better experience to our guests. But in order to do that, we need to take some of those mundane tasks away from them, right? Those tasks that they have to do every day over and over and over again. Well, how can technology help them get to those particular points, right? Some of the feedback that you guys gave from the question that I asked earlier, some of the challenges that are impacting, for example, understaff has been mentioned, the prices, the slow check-in process, room rates, unfriendly staff, etc., hard cancellation policies, right? These are some of those challenges that, you know, continue to impact that guest experience. So what can we do to take those fences away, right? And try and take as much of the noise away from our team so that our team actually feel more valued. And because they feel more valued, the experience then that they're giving to the guest is obviously that much better. So one of the things that we also did is we've spoken to our clients regularly about, you know, ways in which automation, technology, etc., can help. And it was really, really interesting when we spoke to some of our clients to see the feedback that we received. So, for example, in this particular case, we saw a chain of 30 hotels that communicated to us that 63% of the emails or messages they received at the front desk usually came from the same 8 questions, 63%. And then look at this, a chain of more than 800 hotels said that 91% of emails and messages were coming from the same 18 questions over and over again. Now think about all of that work that's coming in, that's the same thing over and over, right? How can we deploy technology in order to be able to help that particular process? And bear in mind that when we talk about this, we're not talking about technology replacing people. We're talking about technology helping people, giving them the time that they need to deal with the guests that really want face-to-face connection, that really want to ask a particular query that maybe they wouldn't ask to a system, right? So it's how these two things can work in tandem. How can we elevate that guest experience by taking a lot of that process away? So the key here obviously is if we've got all of those questions coming in and right now technology is not deployed, well, the result is a poor guest experience, right? You have the example, the middle example here where it says communication prior to check-in is awful. Every time I called, it was at least a 30 or 40-minute wait. We emailed and no one ever responded. Well, of course, the person that's calling from the other side, they don't see how busy that receptionist is. They don't know that that receptionist is maybe dealing with, many check-ins at that particular time because one of the other team members didn't turn up, for example, right? But at the end of the day, the guest's expectation is that they are being dealt with, right? So how do we make sure that these persistent communication and service issues don't continue to drive a bad guest experience? Yeah, this trend that we've seen is across the industry. It doesn't just impact three-star hotels or hostels, it's across luxury hotels, branded hotels, boutiques, apartments, everywhere. Yeah, this is something that we as an industry need to kind of embrace and find those ways in which we can really drive systemic changes. And us that are on this call, we are part of that change, right? We're the ones that can go back to our businesses and look at ways in order to really elevate that guest experience and change the tourism industry for the better. So I talked about the GRI earlier, yeah, and some years ago we did a study with Cornell University and STR, and at that point, the study identified, this was done across 11 key markets across the globe over data points of around 2 years, I believe. And what they identified within that study was that if a hotel was able to increase its global review index by 1 percentile point, that would convert into a 1.42% increase in RevPAR. Okay, so just by increasing your GRI from 83% to 84%, that's the impact it can have on your RevPAR. Now imagine if you increase it by 4%, by 10%. Imagine identifying key data from your online reputation tools that can really drive an impact on the guest experience and then have that impact on RevPAR. And imagine even today, in the case of how high the ADRs are, how that would fall through into RevPAR. Okay, so it's really, really important that we're focused on that guest experience. So how can we address all the above issues, right? I've set the scene. Where are the challenges? What is the data telling us? What have we heard from our clients? But what is it that we can do in order to address these issues? The good thing, in today's day and age, we have technology that can help alleviate and support our operations and our staff to do better. So you remember this slide from earlier? How many of you on this call have suffered from the same issues? What percentage of your front desk is responding to the same questions to your guests? And how much of those queues at your desk are actually related to answering questions rather than actually checking people in or checking them out and welcoming them or bidding them farewell, right? How many times do staff have to pick up the phone to answer the question, what time is breakfast or where is breakfast, right? Technology can help us do all of this. A simple and quick way to use automation today is to employ a guest messaging system with a chatbot that is pre-trained for hospitality. You could remove up to 80% of the repetitive queries from your staff front desk and phone lines. As you can see here, the chatbot employed in this specific case was able to answer thousands of repetitive questions. This can be at any stage of the guest journey, from looking to booking to pre-stay and in-stay. The knowledge base from which the chatbot sourced the answers to the hotel's FAQ was also used to support live agents to give correct and fast answers in the case that the guest wanted to speak to a human. So the key piece of this is that while we want to give our guests the ability to really speak to us across any channels that they want, this technology that we can deploy that can help to respond to 80% of those, whether the chatbot does it automatically or whether you use the technology of the chatbot, but to help your live agents to have the necessary answers and edit them as needed. We'll come back to this later on, but you'll notice that this is super, super important. Also, look at the requests for maintenance or housekeeping that were automatically created into cases. Yeah, so you can see here we have 26 housekeeping requests that came in, right? And here you can see the most frequently used articles for that particular chatbot. Yeah, so these are requests that the chatbot can identify that the guest in room 201 is requesting more towels, create a case, and distribute that directly to housekeeping. I don't need to phone down to reception, or even worse, go down to reception, right, to ask for those towels, and then for somebody to pick up a radio and radio somebody up on one of the other floors. This is a way in which it can automatically be delivered. Also, how we promote this and how we make those messaging channels is super, super important. It's really, really key to make sure that when your guests check in, or prior to check-in, that they are aware exactly how they can communicate with you. And this becomes part of our welcome to the guest, our communication about this day, and we try and ensure that all of our guests go to that one particular channel, knowing that we have a really important staff member called the chatbot that's actually responding to a lot of those queries for us. Let me go even a bit deeper for you and talk to you about the booking assistant. As I said before, our assistant will answer all the questions that are more important for your potential guests. That means that from your side, you have the freedom to customize the assistant's answers so that they can be most informative and also attractive in order to convince the travelers to go ahead and book. There's no need for them to go and navigate different pages. Many tabs open to look for information and then go to another page in order to just get the rates. They can do it all in the same place, all at once. All they need to do is ask. Users can tell the assistant with one shot all the necessary information, as you can see in the GIFs that are showing. What the dates are, number of rooms, amount of people, and then the assistant is smart enough in order to process that information. The booking assistant then integrates with numerous top and key booking engines, so you don't have to worry about any technical difficulties to provide availability and live rates. It's a no-brainer. You can see, you get the rate cards that come up, the guest gets the answers that they need, they can click on that and off they go and make their booking. So the chatbot can first respond to the questions. Can I bring my pet? Do you have car parking? How do I get to the hotel? And then while in there, the chatbot can also respond to queries related to rates and availability, giving us the ability to drive that forward to a booking. And then think about automating pre-stay communication, right? This is a great way to manage the expectations before the arrival of the guest. Make sure that we can communicate to them exactly what's happening at the hotel. Is the restaurant undergoing refurbishment? Is the car parking full and they need to park somewhere else? Do we have a big party going on and therefore they should pre-book their room service? All those kind of things that can be done prior to the guest arriving in order to set those correct expectations, right? So much of what we've spoken about until now is about the expectations. And we have so many ways in order to make sure that the guest understands exactly what is going to happen about their stay, where they need to go. If they've checked in online, do they need to go to the bar to pick up their room keys? And you can decide on which way we're actually delivering those messages to the guest, right? We also have the opportunity to be able to send out mass messages on a one-off, for example, on WhatsApp. I was speaking to a client not so long ago where we were implementing this technology, and we were talking about the fact that last year it was such a heat wave, and this particular hotel really suffered because their air conditioning wasn't where it needed to be. And I said to them, well, just imagine you could have pushed out a WhatsApp message to all of your guests in-house to say, hey, can you believe this heat wave? It's ridiculous. We never have this weather. But to try and help you cool down, please come down to reception and pick up your free ice cream, right? Something small, something simple, but something that would have a real big impact on the guest experience. And then we have a case for this particular hotel. As I said earlier, the key here is how do we communicate with our guests and how do we promote to make sure that they know any queries they have, this is how you communicate to us, right? So this particular guest has started sending out surveys via email. They're going live with our chatbot. They put in the QR codes with the key cards. And this enables them to send pre-stay messages. And they've also integrated the Google Business Message, right? So if people look for your hotel online, the page comes up showing the Google Maps page, the business page, and right there, people can actually communicate, and it would come directly into this particular application, right? So it's that ability for the guest to choose what channels that they want, but also to know that that is the way. If you have any queries, this is your method of communicating with us. We also have another client who uses the guest communications product that's integrated with Opera, with our Shiji Digital Stay product, and the Review Pro API to really elevate guest experiences. They send pre-stay communication through SMS and email. They send out room ready notifications. So when the guest has checked in online and that room becomes available and clean, then they can send a message to the guest in order to tell them that their room is available. And this is fantastic because this happened to me when I stayed at this particular property. I hadn't planned on arriving at that hotel until about 6 p.m., knowing that the room might not be ready. I received a message at 10:30 in the morning to tell me my room was ready. I arrived at the hotel earlier. I had lunch at the hotel. I had a drink while I was working, and then I ordered room service at the hotel. So just by sending me the room ready message, and I had the want to go and see the hotel and be at the hotel, then they got an upsell from me, right? And after checkout, then the property continues to engage with the guests by sending post-stay communications with SMS and email. Right, so this is really, really great way for them to kind of push the digital experience toward their guests and make sure that they are providing the best experience possible to as many of their guests. And then I talked about case management earlier. The key here of case management is that when we're looking to alleviate staff and we're proactively reaching out to our guests, we need to make sure that we have a way to automate those guest queries. How do we automate any complaints that have come in, any maintenance issues that have been logged, and make sure that they don't all need to come via reception, but that they can go to the necessary work groups to be dealt with, right? In most cases, not in all, but in most cases, there is a maintenance on duty, there is a housekeeper on duty, and there's no reason why those requests need to go via the front desk. They could be going directly to those particular departments. And one of our clients, Corinthia, basically started using our in-stay survey to proactively check with guests how their stay was shortly after arrival. Right? And in the case that the guest has an issue, then the case is automatically created and escalation rules are in place to guarantee follow-up. Now, by putting the in-stay survey with the case management in place, they were then able to make sure that 92% of their requests were responded to in under an hour. They had a 100% resolution rate. They increased their service index by 2.3%, and they increased their global review index by 1%. Okay, so this was that other way to be able to elevate. And here you can see how they break down that particular process. So shortly after a guest arrives, an email is sent out asking how the stay is going. If needed, a case is created for the support team that has 2 hours to resolve it. If it's not resolved in 2 hours, it's then sent to another team that has a window of 6 hours to resolve it. If this time is then exceeded, it is then alerted to the general manager. And if you look on the right-hand side, it's really interesting because you can see that they even went a step further and made sure that those escalation rules were a lot shorter for those guests that were paying a higher rate. Yeah, so this is a great way in which you can manage it. Tell me what you think about this kind of process. Use the comment section and I'll come back to it in a second. Tell me if you are using a similar scenario and how it works, or whether you think this is something that could work within your particular property. So case management can really support the delivery of excellence, right? It ensures that you've got that guaranteed follow-up. We have analytics that enable you to identify what percentage of those cases are being dealt with on time. There's even a report based on agent who has assigned those cases. And it helps to support messaging and in-stay strategies in a scalable manner, right? Making sure that any queries that come in during the guest stay, that those are being obviously prioritized above everything else, because that guest is still on property. And that means that we still have an opportunity to turn a bad experience into a good experience. And more often than not, when we do that, that guest becomes more loyal to our brand. They will be more satisfied and more likely to stay with us in the future because we turned that experience around. Now, whether you're using in-stay surveys delivered by email or delivered by WhatsApp or a guest messaging system, the process should be the same. If a guest makes a complaint or a request, a case created and escalated is to ensure follow-up. In this example of chatbot usage by Village Hotels, we once again see the volume of repetitive questions that have been answered, but also the volume of maintenance and housekeeping request cases. Yeah, so you can see, where's my mouse? You can see here the amount of requests that came in for housekeeping, the amount of requests that came for maintenance. And look at how many requests were answered by the chatbot within 3 months of implementing. Yes, this is super, super key. And interesting that the busy hours for that chatbot is the same thing that we tend to see on reception, right? All those people coming in to check in at the same time in the evening, specifically for city centre hotels. So what better could you want than technology that can take some of that noise away from you, right? So this is super, super critical in order to be able to make sure that we can deliver and see some of those requests. Yeah, and it really makes sure that we have the ability to give as much time to our teams as possible. Yeah, it's super, super, super important that we can really help to take that time away, focus on the guests that we need to, and let technology do as much of the work as possible. Okay, so as we go through, this is another good use case of a beach hotel. Again, bear in mind the way of the communication. It's very, very personalized. It's very on brand. And you see the great QR code that says connect with us, that enables us to go there, ask any questions that we want. And that takes them to a really nice landing page. And in that landing page, they can then choose the communication method in which they want. They've also set separate hubs so that they can have specific requests for the gym and spa for those particular guests that may or may not be dealt with by the chatbot and could be very, very unique service that's provided. And in-stay surveys are triggered upon check-in, while the post-stay surveys are sent 1 hour after checkout. They've also integrated the TravelClick booking engine into the chatbot, and they're in the process of actually implementing FlexKeeping, which is their case management solution. So that will mean that within their case management solution, we would be able to send anything related to guest experience from reviews, surveys, or the chatbot. Any cases that get automatically created will be sent across their system that they use for case management. So you could either choose to use our case management solution, or we could send it to a solution that you're using if we have the integration available. So then the next thing, the second biggest use case for our product is the in-stay guest assistant, right? And bear in mind that it covers general hotel info like availability of parking, bar, pool, info on opening hours. It can also respond to requests for food or drinks to be delivered in the room, ordering any bathroom amenities, or requests to clean the room via housekeeping. People that report issues in their rooms would create an automatic case for maintenance, right? So maintenance knows that guest is in the house and right now they have an issue. So I need to be going there right now in order to be able to fix that particular problem so that they don't leave dissatisfied. The chatbot can identify complaints from semantic analysis. So depending on the text and the sentiment that the guest is using in that particular message, it can create a complaint flow and then obviously deliver that to the necessary department to make sure it gets solved. Yeah, and we also talked about the reservation request. Note that we keep building and improving our Q&A flows based on real data so that we make sure that we cover all your guest needs, bring as much automation as possible to automate your time and workflows. And also we look at ways in which we can promote your hotel services and increase your sales, right? At the end of the day, we want to drive sales, we want to increase guest expectations, so, the guest experience, so that when they actually leave, they leave better reviews. And then we can ask for higher rates because our guest experience is that much more competitive than what we see within our competition. Yeah, so it's really, really important to bear in mind how all of this technology can really help automate the guest journey from the look phase to the post-stay phase. It can help you with communication with your guests in the best way possible, whether it is to facilitate information, encourage feedback, or automate and take the heavy lifting out of your operations. Right? You can look at deploying various parts of this technology throughout that process. Now, if you were looking to implement messaging, I wanted to share some of those best practices that we've kind of seen as we've been working with some of our clients. For example, it's important to look at your business mix before selecting the messaging channels. I start with a couple of messaging channels first to optimize and then amplify, right? Don't put all of the messaging channels live immediately. Look at a way that you can kind of beta test it at the start before you start to grow it more and more. And get your staff excited about this new solution. Some of the clients that I've been talking to over the past year, they say it's not just about guest experience, it's about the experience of the team as well, and how such technology can really have an impact on their job on a day-to-day basis. So get them excited. Make sure they see how deploying such technology can really give them so much more time to be able to deal with the guest and do other more interesting tasks. When you're looking at the messaging communication, think about what is the problem or the pain point that you're looking to address. Are you looking to automate those responses, that are the questions that are coming over and over again? Are you looking to increase your touch points with guests, looking at upselling, cross-selling? Are you looking to automate the check-in and check-out process? It is important, though, to make sure that you are not spamming your guests. And if we go back to this screen, it's important to understand exactly what are the touch points that you're doing at the various points for those particular guests, right? And make sure that we're not spamming them, because otherwise everything that you implement becomes irrelevant, right? Because they're not going to engage with it. So another example we have here is a resort that's using messaging for surveys. So basically they're live with a chatbot functionality, and they actually use it within WhatsApp, the web chat, Viber, and Telegram. And to promote seamless engagement, they utilize various channels, including tent counts in the room, the startup screen of the in-room TVs, QR codes at reception and elevators, and the landing page of the Wi-Fi network, right? So wherever the guest is going to be, they know exactly how they need to communicate with that particular property, right? And that is important because I know I see it everywhere, and eventually that message gets in that if I have a request, this is where I need to go. This particular client is looking to enhance further channels. They're looking to integrate the Booking.com hub for all of those pre-stay queries that come in from guests that are making reservations. And they're looking at adding Facebook and Instagram. And they will invite guests soon to participate in post-stay surveys via WhatsApp and email. So again, when you are looking to implement such a program, think about how you're going to make sure that your guests are aware of this. How are we going to promote it? Where are the QR codes? We've seen lots of customers these days that are putting this kind of QR on the TV screen. So when I check in, the first thing I see when I go to my room is this big QR code that says, anything you need with your stay, please go here, right? Then I know exactly what I need to do. So from this particular piece, it is important to consider the hospitality challenges. We know the high rates lead to staff to high expectations. We need to deal with the staffing issues, look at managing guest expectations and close the gap on operational reality. It's important to look at streamlined processes supporting the automation, right? So how do we alert the right staff at the right time? How do we make sure there's less confusion and quicker follow-up? And then look at how automation can help alleviate the staff pressure points, right? It won't take it all away, right? The chatbot could create more requests for the maintenance manager, or it could create more requests for housekeeping. But if we're able to turn those requests around while the guest is still on property, that guest is going to leave more satisfied, yeah? So obviously, as I said earlier, the other key piece here is that while we're talking about the technology in hospitality, super important to always bear in mind, the idea here is to take a lot of the noise away and make sure that our team can actually provide a better experience, provide happier guests, not have a sad face because I've got such a big queue in front of me, but actually be able to deal with that guest in a nice and pleasant manner because the technology is doing so much of the work, right? So these two facets of human and technology, they need to be able to coexist and work together. Yeah, as we said earlier, experience, staff, and service were three of the most positive categories that we identified in the data benchmark report. So we need to be able to make sure that we can make them understand that and use that more and more often. Yeah, we have an example here of a client that went from number 59 to number 1 on TripAdvisor. They increased their ADR by 55%, and they hired back 32% of the staff after the pandemic. And as you can see from Jefferson here, it says, we recognize from the very beginning that our greatest advantage was our team and service. We needed to invest in our team development, right? So being able to spend time with them, spend time, give the team time to be able to deal with what they need to with the guest, and let the technology do a lot of the work is super key. Yeah, so finally, just to give time to go through the questions at the end, when looking at a guest experience platform, look at something that can drive the entire guest journey from one unified platform. That's something that we can do at CG Review Pro. Yeah, look at ways in which you can really impact the look, the book, the pre-stay, the insight, the checkout, and the post-stay. Right? How can technology help to have a clean flow, and so that you know exactly what communications go into your guests when, and be able to, you know, validate that and play with it if necessary, if some of them are not working. Yeah. So finally, why do we think you should choose us? I already mentioned at the start, we work with 60,000 clients. We have more than 10 years experience in the industry, and we are present in over 150 countries. We look at the unified 360-degree approach within the guest experience platform. Has a very easy to use interface. So all of those solutions are in a very similar interface. So you just get trained on one platform, but you're dealing with all of that. And we are 100% dedicated to hospitality guest experience. That is what we do. Yeah, we're dedicated to client education and support, hence the reason I'm here speaking to you today. We look at investment in innovation and product and development, and being part of the largest CG organization enables us to really be really innovative. And we are ISO certified and GDPR compliant. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you to you all for your time, for taking up some time of your day related to this particular session. I hope you found it useful. If you do have any questions, please let me know. Use the chat right now if you have specific questions. I'm going to look at a couple that have come in.
Hello, Neil. Welcome.
Hi.
Thanks, man, for the great session that we have today. So, if with the attendance, we have a lot of different comments during the session that I didn't say on the screen. But questions at the moment we didn't have. In case the attendants that we have at the moment have any question, please write down. It's here you have the possibility to speak with Neil James directly. That kind of chance is not every day that you will have. So we wait a few seconds. If not, if we don't get any questions, we will finish the session in 1 minute. Neil, we also would like to tell to all the attendants that we already share the link where you can do the test right now if you want about the session with Neil James. Also, that link will be forever and ever. So anybody that wants to go over the session will be live, will be there forever also. And you have or the test to get your online certification. Bear in mind that after you pass the test, you get a certification. We have a connectivity API with LinkedIn, so you can share your certification or you can add the certification on your timeline of location on LinkedIn. Neil, at the moment here we have they're requesting here. Alpha, did you requesting if are present in France? Yes, Review Pro is
Yes,
it's all around the globe. All the countries all around the world. Yes. Then we have Brentley Boswell telling us, thank you so much.
thank you.
So informative. Thank you so much, everyone. Any other questions, please write down. We will set. I will ask Neil straight away.
I'd just like to add, Vinny, just while waiting, obviously, if anybody does have any queries regarding to the platform, either look on the Review Pro website or feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to look at that. And I think, yeah, Brentley's comment there, I think, is a good one. The guest journey is key. With ADR being so high, we have to deliver more. And that can be in ways that are simple. And that is so, so important. Great comment, Brentley. You know, I've been to quite a few hotel conferences over the past 6 months where, you know, I've been asked to go and speak to how do we focus on the value that we're giving to guests, right? Because they're paying a lot more for the same product, but how do we identify what else can be done in order to be able to elevate that particular experience? And I think that's key to what Brentley said. A lot of the examples can be really, really simple. Right? It can be, as I said earlier, that example of the ice cream when it's hot, or it could be a simple welcome voucher on arrival. There's so many simple things that can happen. And you know that's I'm looking at Custodio's comments here, and this is one of the things that I've spoken to a lot of hoteliers about. I think, you know, that the airline industry always tends to be, you know, that one step ahead, right? The difference being is if you think about the airline industry in general, maybe there's, I don't know, 300 airlines or maybe a bit more in the whole world, right? When it comes to hospitality, there's a hell of a lot more, right? So that's why I say it's down to all of us at the end of the day, whether it's hospitality professionals, technology companies, those working together. it's super key that we can kind of try and set an experience for the industry in general across the globe.
So those are all the comments that we have. So Neil, thank you so much for everything, for this great session. I hope we can have another one during this year. Welcome anytime that you would like to be here, or CG Group or Review Pro. You are always welcome. Thank you everybody for the session. Neil, I give you a few seconds to say goodbye.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody that's been part of the session. Hope you enjoyed it, and good luck with the certification. I hope you get all the questions right. Thank you, guys.
That's great. We also will send, because we got more than 360 professionals subscribe during the session. We have 40 persons looking at it. Normally, everybody will look afterwards because we still on work hours. So we will send an email marketing to all the subscribers like this. They can check the session and they will be able also to do the test and get their official certification from CG Group Review Pro with Travel Tech. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day ahead for those that still, and for end of the day for those that it's the end of the day. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.